Do I really need to cleanse my decks? And how do I know when to cleanse them or if I should even bother at all? Also, if I do want to cleanse my deck, how do I go about doing that? These are some of the questions that we are going to dig into today in this video. And I want to thank you for bringing this question to me over the years. I recently received this comment here, which prompted this video. So thank you so much for leaving comments. I do my absolute best to read every single one and reply to you. So thank you. My name is Emily Rose. I'm a professional Lenormand and tarot reader, and I've been reading cards for a very long time since I was about 12 years old. I am also a daughter of a professional tarot reader. My aunt was a tarot reader, and it's been in my family for quite some time. One of the wonderful and also tricky things about the cartomancy world is that there are no hard and fast rules when it comes to how you receive your cards, how you care for your cards, and even how to read them. There's so many different variations, and what my hope is for this video is that I can kind of introduce some ideas to you, and if any of them resonate for you, you can take those, try them out, and see if they work in your practice. I'm going to share with you what I personally do in my own practice, and then what I see others doing and working for other diviners that I know, and then you can take some of these ideas and decide what you want to do with them. So I'm going to cut right to the chase here. Do you need to cleanse your decks? And my answer is going to be yes. I do think that everyone who reads cards needs to cleanse their decks. But here's the thing, you're probably already doing it without even realizing, and we're going to get into that later in the video. If you do already cleanse your deck, please let me know how you do that below in the comments, and maybe you'll have a method that's not listed here, or you'll highlight one that really works for you, and that can help others who are scrolling through this video. The reason why I find cleansing your deck to be important is because you want to ensure that you have a clean slate when you walk into your next reading. You don't want the residue from the previous reading hanging around you or your cards, and cleansing them is a really great way to ensure that you have let go of previous intentions, that there isn't any kind of heavy energy that's still clinging to you or your cards, and also just to help you to feel ready to walk into that next reading. And that's what's most important about cleansing your deck, is not that your cards are cleansed. I mean, that's part of it, but it's more for you, in my opinion, and that you feel like you're coming into the next situation. What's that commercial from like the 90s, like clean, clear, and under control? That's basically how you want to walk into your readings. So you may be wondering, okay, I kind of get why it's important to cleanse my deck, but how do I know when to do it? What signs should I look for that signal that it's time for me to do a good cleansing? So I have two layers of cleansing that I'm going to talk about with you. The first is kind of a light clean, and this is something that I do in every single reading, sometimes multiple times in a reading, and it's something you're probably already doing too, and we'll talk about that. And a light clean I kind of equate to just like wiping down your counters in the kitchen. This is doing the dishes that are in your sink. This is, maybe sweeping your floor, and that's about it. It's presentable. You feel a little bit refreshed, right? It didn't need a lot to make the room feel clean. And then there's the deeper clean. And this is something that I only do occasionally with my deck. or after I've had a heavy reading day, or I'm just feeling a certain kind of way, that's when I'm going to do a deeper clean. And this is kind of like when you do a deep clean of your floors, right? You're really getting in there and cleaning. Maybe you're renting one of those carpet cleaning machine things at the store and you're going over your carpet with it, right? This is when you're doing a deeper clean. So those are kind of the two layers of cleansing that I'm talking about here. And I'm going to give you examples of each of those in a little bit. Just like your house, you're going to want to do that light clean of your deck all the time. I do a light clean multiple times throughout my readings, even just one reading with a client, with myself, and then I'll do a deep clean when I notice these particular signs. The first sign is if you find that you actually don't even want to pick up your cards. Maybe you've been really into reading lately, and then you just kind of start to notice you're not gravitating towards your cards, and when you pick them up, you feel heavier. That's a good time to go ahead and cleanse your cards. It could be many things, but cleansing your deck might help relieve some of that residue and heaviness that may have clung on to the cards or yourself from a previous reading. So it's just a good idea to cleanse in that scenario and then see how you feel. Could be other causes contributing to that, but cleansing your deck, you can just kind of eliminate that previous energy as one of the possible contributors. The second sign that you need to do a deeper cleanse of your deck is if you're finding that your readings just aren't making sense. If you're feeling like your readings just kind of feel totally random and that they're not lining up with any sort of reference to the question you asked, then it may be a good deal to cleanse and redraw just to rule that out. The cards could be responding to a previous scenario. Maybe you're subconsciously thinking of another scenario. There's a lot of things that could be at play, but cleansing your deck might just solve that problem for you. The third reason why you may want to do a deeper cleanse of your deck is if you have done a lot of readings in a day. So if I'm doing more than 2 or 3 readings in a day, I'm probably going to do a deeper cleanse just because there's a lot of energy that's been circulating around, and I just do it for good measure. It's almost like a preventative measure. So I just go ahead and do that deeper cleanse when I've had a busy day of readings. Now, let's get into different ways you can cleanse your deck. So, in terms of which method will work best for you, if you're here in this video, you are an intuitive person. So, as you listen to all of these different methods, feel free to just kind of sit and notice how you feel with each one. How is that method landing? Does it feel comforting or good when you hear it? Does it feel like, what's that? I'm kind of curious about that. That's interesting. Or are you feeling like, I don't think that way will work for me, right? So just notice how you feel as I go through these different methods, and feel free to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. If you're shuffling your cards, you are already cleansing your deck. And if you feel good, you feel like things are working for you, then you don't really need to do anything else. There are so many different ways to shuffle your cards, and I have done another video on that, which I will link down below. But I have kind of 2 preferred ways of shuffling that I find are best for cleansing. So the first is kind of just like the standard card shuffle that you see at any kind of card game that you go to, where you're just kind of riffling through the cards. That's going to be a great cleansing method. And also when you spread out the cards and you move your hand around them, just mixing them up randomly. I call this the washing technique. And when I do the washing technique, I picture myself literally like I wash dishes, like scrubbing them away. I picture water on them, cleansing them. Your intention actually does matter a lot because it's also about you feeling cleansed too. So I do that type of visualization as I go. That's the main light cleansing method that I'm going to talk about here. I'm now going to dig into some of the deeper cleansing methods. And one of those methods is smoke. Regardless of what you burn, any kind of smoke that you have put intention into is going to be great for cleansing your deck. And when it comes to selecting exactly, what kind of smoke to use, it really comes down to personal preference. And I know a lot of us do have health conditions and things like that where we're not able to burn and use smoke. So if that's the case, you can use an oil diffuser as well, and you just put that same intention into the oil. I like to do it as I'm actually dripping it in, whatever the intention is, and that's what's going to be spread around. So same concept, and you can use any essential oil that you connect with. Please be aware though that some of these methods that I'm talking about, smoke included, they can impact your cards in some circumstances. I've never had any problems with that personally, but you just want to kind of take note, take care as you're going through this. Smoke, some of the other methods I'll mention, they could add some color, or they could get your cards a touch damp, so that's something to keep in mind with all of these techniques as well. Another deeper cleansing method is to set your cards in a bowl of salt. Salt is a great cleanser, and it's something you can do pretty regularly when it comes to cleansing your deck. That being said, I haven't personally used salt to cleanse my decks, but I do use salt. I like to put them in bowls and put them in certain areas of my house when I feel like the energy is a little funky. There was a corner of my house that my daughter, when she was a baby, was always staring at, and I just got the heebie-jeebies from that corner. And we just put a bowl of salt there with some bay leaves in it, and we also put some essential oil it was bay leaf essential oil basically, and I put some little tiny crystals in there as well. And now that corner does not creep any of us out anymore. So it seemed to work for us here. And I've seen other folks use salt as a cleansing method for their decks. Another method, and this is a method I use all the time, and that is to use crystals to cleanse your deck. Typically, crystals that you can see through that are clear are going to be the best ones to use. Selenite is pretty notorious for this. Selenite's also pretty inexpensive to get, so that's what I tend to use. You could also use clear quartz or citrine. I like this method because it's easy. There's not a lot of thought I have to put into it, except for the intention when I'm setting the crystal on top of my cards. And that's all you do. You just set your cards down, you put the crystal on top, and you put that energy in. I like to put that intention in while I'm setting the crystal down. That being said, I like to cleanse my crystals afterwards. There's debate in the mystical world as to whether or not you need to cleanse your selenite regularly. Some folks say selenite's one of the few that you don't need to cleanse. I personally like to cleanse all of them with smoke, so that's what I do. And I do it just for good measure because it just makes me feel good. But you can just use your own judgment and discretion when it comes to that. Last method that I'm going to talk about is putting your cards under the moon. Now, this is another area where there's debate in the mystical world as to whether you want to do cleansing on a full moon or a new moon. Where I land is on the new moon. I think that the new moon it's fresh, it's new. So setting things out under the new moon is about cleansing. When it comes to the full moon, I think about that as charging with energy. So anything you put under the full moon, it's kind of infusing energy because that's when the moon is at its largest. That's just what I have found personally and what works for me, but please use your own judgment and intuition, as I mentioned before. But that's another great way, and the only thing you have to do is kind of track when the moon is new, when it's full, and you just set your cards out. Now, I live in the Pacific Northwest. My dad always jokes that mold should be one of the 31 flavors at Baskin-Robbins here because it's wet here all the time. So you want to be careful about that. Don't at me if your decks get warped. As you can tell, the vibe of this video is do what works best for you. And one of my mentors, the fabulous Rana George, who's the creator of the Rana George Lenormand, she always says there is no Lenormand police. And so there aren't any deck cleansing police, okay? Do what works best for you and what makes sense for you. If you are interested in learning Lenormand, they are the cards that I showed here. This is Rana's deck. Then you can take my free Lenormand mini course at emilyrosedivination.com/mini course. I'll also include the link in the description below. And inside that mini course, you're going to get 3 free lessons that teach you how to do daily draws with Lenormand. And if you don't know what Lenormand is, they're these kind of sassy, to-the-point cards that tell it like it is. So if that is your vibe, then you can go ahead and take the mini course for free and see if it's up your alley. There you have it. You have a variety of methods in terms of how you can cleanse your deck. You now know what signs to look for as to whether your deck needs that deep clean, and you can give yourself a pat on the back because you are already cleansing your deck, most likely simply by shuffling. So I want to thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and let me know below which cleansing method is your favorite or which one you already use. Thank you so much.